Panther people, what up? Let's talk about him. Anthony Richardson, Cam Newton 2.0, or DeMarcus Russell 2.0? Panthers post Phil Perkins, thanks for joining. We are in the middle of draft freaking season. Sure, the Panthers aren't in the Super Bowl, but the next best thing, the NFL draft coming up in Kansas City. The Panthers picking 9th overall, and so they got a lot of places they can go. They got the extra draft picks. They didn't trade for Sean Payton, so they got a full arsenal of picks that they could be trading to try to move up or stay where they're at. So if you've already been joining me on this draft experience, you may have already checked out the Bryce Young and CJ Stroud and Will Levis episodes. If you haven't, check them out. It's been a lot of fun to talk with the one and the only Damian Parson at DP_NFL from the Draft Network. Break things down for those out there in draft land. The best thing about him, he could talk to the tape heads. He could also talk to the, regular kind of draft, casual draft fan like myself. I'm a little bit more intense. I do like watching the combine, every single minute of it. I love pro days, love all that stuff, love scouting reports. So he does a very good job explaining why these quarterbacks could work, why they could not work. And so this time around, he talks about one of the more intriguing prospects heading into this draft. This guy could either be called the number 4, number 5 quarterback, or the number 1 overall quarterback, depending on who you talk to. And that's Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson. Here's what Damian Parson had to say about why he thinks he could be special for the Panthers.
Similar to Will Levis, right? Like I call it the Superman traits. Similar to Cam Newton, the size, the arm strength, the running ability, the athleticism. Anthony Richardson is legitimately my favorite QB prospect in this class because of just watching him on tape. And yes, there's some things you got to clean up, right? There's the experience thing, right? Like, he's only been a 1-year starter. And he's playing 2 different schemes, and one with this year with, Billy Napier that may not have fully suited him either. But the thing about it, and the difference for him compared to a Will Levis, for me, is Anthony Richardson stepped out of the booth as Superman when they needed him to. You know what I mean? The Utah game, big game. That's a crazy scenario to start out your season as your first-year starter. You have the number 7 team coming into your home, and they take you to the wire. And the plays that he was able to make, some of the throws, checking at the line of scrimmage, getting them into the right sets, and the drive throws, the arm talent, driving throws 20, 30 yards upfield on the line. And it's just like, not many guys can do this from the pocket, like just clean, and not even clean. Like there's times where guys are hanging on him. Some guys are diving at his legs, and he's still able to put enough RPMs on passes, right? And then, of course, in that same game, he rattles off like a 60-yard run. Like they played pure man-to-man and forgot the kid was mobile. He's like a 4'4", 4'5" kid at 6'4", 240. It's like you can't really leave him by himself, and he hurt him that way. And to your point, the reason why he doesn't have all those pressures to sacks is because of the fact that he is such a twitchy mover at that size. He can spin. He stiff arms guys. He has that agility, that quick twitch to be able to make moves in the pocket, suddenness when he feels pressure and get away from guys. And then either I can run or I can make a play with my arm on the move as well. And you started to see it. I'm going to tell, like, he went through that stretch after the Utah game. All the scouts start going to those games, right? He played Will Levis. I think it's the second week of the season where neither one of them played well in that game. Kentucky won, but it was a lot due to just Florida not meeting the opportunity. Both quarterbacks played bad in that game. But, he struggled against, Kentucky and then USF. And there's one more game. It was like 4 straight games at home. And Phil, when he went I remember telling my boss, Paige DeMacos, we were on the phone. I was like, he's going into Tennessee. I said, here's the difference. I said, he's been at home all year. The first 4 games, he's got the crowd that's kind of finicky, fickle, and they're not really patient. He's going into a rough environment that the fans don't want you to win anyway. This is perfect for him. Let the anxiety go and just play ball. He goes into that game, over 500 total yards of offense, 4 touchdowns. He's the only reason that team was in position to go score for score with Hendon Hooker and Tennessee's high-powered offense. And I say that to say this is that his Superman traits were on display multiple times this year. Again, he's not experienced. So you have to be patient with him and not expect him to be Cam Newton right away, right? Don't expect him to be MVP Jalen Hurts. But the same patience that Josh Allen needed, the same patience Jalen Hurts needed, the same patience a lot of these quarterbacks need, give it to Anthony Richardson. And I believe that this young man has all the tools and the mindset and the willingness to make those plays that will change your franchise.
Yeah, to me, he's like my safety net. Like if the Panthers have no trade partners and they're stuck at 9 or somewhere, I think that, and I'm seeing a lot more mock drafts. I know they're just experiments, but I'm seeing a lot more where they just plop them in there. I'm like, I'm okay. I'd be happy. And you get to keep all your 2 second rounders and your 2 fourths. Like, I'm okay with that.
And you just build the team. You just build the team out. If he's there at 9, 8 or 9, wherever you guys finish in the top 10 and you're not in position to get Will Levis, if that's what David Tepper wants or whatever, or say Houston goes him at 1 and Bryce and CJ are off the board, I feel comfortable taking Anthony Richardson. I feel comfortable taking him, and maybe you bring back Sam Darnold on a 1-year deal. And Matt Corral, I get it. Matt Corral's a 3rd-round pick, and a lot of Panthers fans want Matt Corral to have that opportunity, and it sucks for him that he got hurt and he wasn't able to really gain the reps and show like a Desmond Ridder and Kenny Pickett were able to show like, hey, I can play in this league. I just need some time. But with the offensive line, the run game, the defense, and all those picks, if I don't have to move up and I can get Anthony Richardson at 9, 8 or 9, I'm absolutely doing that. I'm fine with that because now I can get those picks. I can find another defensive end. I can add more receiver help, add tight ends, maybe draft a pass catching running back like a Jahmyr Gibbs in the 2nd, 3rd round or whoever's available. You can really put your team in a spot where you go from NFC South champions to potentially Super Bowl contenders if you do it correctly.
So that's Damian Parson at DP_NFL from the Draft Network giving his 2 cents. I'm going to take it like $10 because I trust this guy a lot in his analysis on Anthony Richardson, quarterback out of Florida. And if you watched my previous videos, if you haven't, check them out. When he talks about Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, he talked about how Will Levis, he kind of, not exactly his top quarterback in his opinion, but when he talks about Anthony Richardson, there's a little pep in his step. Vocally, even in his shoulders, just the way he talks a little bit. Like he gets excited when he talks about Anthony Richardson, and so do I. I've been watching him since I knew he was kind of on the radar before the season even started. His matchup with LSU, with Utah right off the bat. He did a great things. He kind of has that Vic flick. For those of you guys who are old enough to remember Michael Vick when he came on the scene from Virginia Tech and then with the Atlanta Falcons, it was just like this effortless delivery that I have never seen before. It just seems like he just flicks his wrist and the ball would just travel 75 yards in the air. And Vic was like 6'1". We got Anthony Richardson here standing at like 6'3", 6'4", 230, 240, and he could launch it with very little effort. And it also seems like when he runs, I think he had a really nice long run against LSU, that it doesn't even look like his strides are that long. You see some other quarterbacks, like I always compare, Colin Kaepernick. When he ran, it was kind of like a gazelle. Really long, gliding steps. But then with Anthony Richardson, I don't know if he's that much bigger than Colin Kaepernick, but it seems like because he's so big, he's such a big dude all around, he doesn't just have freakishly long legs like Colin Kaepernick kind of did. Anthony Richardson looks like his body is not moving that fast, but his legs are moving really fast. And he's covering a lot of ground. It's just a sight to behold. Check out to see when he breaks out for a run. It doesn't look like he's running that quickly. Maybe because his body is so big, but he covers a lot of distance and outruns secondary defenders. So he offers that right out the gate if you draft him as a rookie quarterback. And if you take a look at this one stat, and I know Damian talked about it with Will Levis, is his pocket awareness is the best in this quarterback class. I think it was PFF who came up with a stat, and I've talked about it before in previous episodes. It is pressure to sack percentage. So that's basically at what percentage of time that you face pressure in the pocket that you eventually lead into a sack. And Anthony Richardson, who is the biggest, the most jacked quarterback in this class, has the lowest percentage. So meaning, when it comes to facing pressure, he is the least likely out of all the quarterbacks in this draft, including Bryce Young, who's like 5'10", 190. He is the least likely to get sacked in those scenarios. A big body like that. So what does that tell you? It tells you he has nimble feet. He's got great vision. He's got great confidence. And what do they talk about when they talk about CJ Stroud and Bryce Young? Poise. and he's got playmaking ability. And so all those things wrapped up in this gigantic Cam Newton-esque package, I think, and this is one thing they also said in this PFF tweet about the specific stat, is that is the one stat for sure translates into the NFL. It's kind of like the Sam Darnold stat. Sam Darnold, when he feels pressure, he sees those ghosts. Remember, maybe not so much at the end of last year, but he gets sacked. And so if you have a guy there who can get the pressure and deal with it and not get sacked, lose yards, kind of give up a play, I think that's a win. That's a win for the offense. And so, in my opinion, I think if the Panthers somehow find themselves at 9 and outbid by whether it's the Indianapolis Colts, Houston Texans, Las Vegas Raiders, Seattle Seahawks, or the Falcons, or whoever, and they trade up to number 1 or 2 or 3, whatever, they just give up the farm for whoever it is, and they take, your CJ Strouds, your Will Levis, your Bryce Young, and the Panthers, all they got to do is sit pretty at 9. I would be very confident with them taking Anthony Richardson because I do think he has a crazy high ceiling and what he does on the field is ridiculous. And talking about that stat again, I don't think that, especially with a better offensive line that he had with Florida, I think he can make plays happen, especially with a quarterback-friendly coach like Frank Reich and who could be with him throughout his career, at least in the first 3 years. I think Frank Reich's contract is 4 years, and so they can grow together. He's not going to lose Frank Reich. He's going to have that consistency. It's not going to be like in Buffalo where, you have your coaches, different offensive coordinators leaving to become head coaches. And so I think it'd be a great matchup. But this is all assuming that Frank Reich, Scott Fitter, Dan Morgan and company like Anthony Richardson. If they love CJ Stroud and they think he's going to go in the top 2, hell yeah, trade up. And if they think that he can compete right now and help them lead a kind of a Cincinnati Bengals type trajectory, making it 2 straight NFC Championship games, yeah, you go get him. You sell not the farm, but you give away the first round pick next year, second round picks, one of the 2 pairs of second and fourth rounders. You do it. If you have to send a player, do it. If you love CJ, if they aren't sold on them and they love, AR-15 and they don't need to trade up and you can keep those assets and build a team around them, get a Dalton Kincaid with a first, second round pick and then maybe an edge rusher for the defense and then maybe another streaking type wide receiver, the cat out of Hyatt out of Tennessee. He could be a guy that you can target. So, there's multiple ways to go with this. To be honest, if the Panthers get away from this draft with a CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson, I'd be happy with whatever scenario. If you had to give away prospects to get CJ Stroud, or if you had to give out none and get AR-15, I'm okay with both. I'd be a happy camper on either situation. Let me know. How do you guys feel about Anthony Richardson? Are you a fan of his? Do you think that he's just kind of fool's gold? He just has the traits, but not really the transferability to the NFL? Do you think Will Levis is a better prospect? Or do you think, CJ is the only guy? Or are you the Hendon Hooker crowd? He's making the rounds during Super Bowl week. People fall in love with him. He's a great interview. Gotta say, got a baked bean endorsement. So he's got some taste. So let me know. Let me know who is your quarterback. So next episode with Damian Parson, the final of this series, at least this series, he talks about other prospects the Carolina Panthers could be targeting that aren't quarterbacks. So if you're a build a team kind of guy, you want to take a look at that episode. That's coming up next week. And of course, if any breaking news happens, check out the YouTube shorts. Check out I might do a live video. Always going to be here for you guys during the off season. Can't wait. This journey just begun, baby. It's only February. See you guys next week.